Back in 2011, I was asked to do a residency in a school. At that time, I wasn't set up to do such a thing. I had to go out and buy 10 or 20 of every single tool that kids would need to work on it. Obviously, with my first project, I had no idea how it would work or how it would conduct such a thing. I didn't realize how much fun it would be. I had no way of knowing it would be such a rewarding part of my work, and now in 2024, I'm old enough to retire, but I just can't see myself stopping until I'm physically not able. We've done over 50 of these community mosaics now. Even before we start making tiles or anything, you have to decide what the design is going to be. It has to be a design that will work with the number of people you have, and then you have to figure out what the capabilities of the people you have are. Like, obviously, a group of kindergartners is not going to be able to do the same kind of work that a group of high schoolers is going to be able to do. If I have 20 people working at the same time, I might be able to cover an area a lot faster, but I can't keep the design as tight as if I were working with 4 people at a time. So once we actually get started, the first thing we do, I have to show them how to cut glass and how to handle the tools and everything. The first project I did was mostly with flat glass, but then shortly after that I started adding in fused glass tiles, which is what I do in my own work. We have to decide how many days we have making tiles. So some of the projects we do, they actually only have one day to make tiles. So if that's in a school, that's one 40-minute period to make their tile, whatever it's going to be. And then in certain projects, we'll have like two weeks to make tiles. And then some kids will come in extra periods to make extra tiles, or to make one tile really fantastic. Like they'll come in their lunch, or they'll come in a study hall. In my opinion, the best part of these mosaics is the tiles, because everybody has their little spot in the mosaic where they can do exactly whatever they want. It's just amazing the things that people come up with. Every single project I do, there's something that surprises me. People have no idea how hard it is to make something cool that tiny. When they go to make these tiles, they have a lot of restrictions. Like, first of all, depending on what the design is, they might only be able to use one color. Like the project I'm working on right now, a broccoli, every single tile that everybody makes is all green on green. Whatever it is they decide to make, they have to determine if they can depict that in all green. So for instance, if they want to make a strawberry, they have to have enough detail on that strawberry so that you can recognize what it is without them using red. And then, you know, the smaller it is, the harder it is to cut glass in that particular shape. Once they're all fired and we see what tiles we have to work with, then we can sketch things out. And there's only ever been one time where I sketched the mosaic out before I got to the school. It was really super specific and we wouldn't have had time to get it done. But other than that, you know, the kids and the teacher usually lay things out the way they're going to go. So once the fused tiles are all laid out, then we start filling in around the mosaic with the flat glass. Depending on how much time we have, that determines how difficult the background is going to be. And just like it's really cool to put everybody's tiles and everybody's ideas all mixed together, it's really cool to have all different kinds of people working shoulder to shoulder. And it's great in a school because they have a time constraint, so they have to figure out who's going to be good at what, and you know, they learn to find out what they're good at. Like we have to get things done in a certain amount of time. And they learn to collaborate and cooperate, and you know, in some schools everybody wants to do the vacuuming, and then in some schools nobody wants to do the vacuuming, and they got to figure out who's going to do what. And it's a pretty neat thing to witness. It's a lot to keep track of if you have 20 pairs of hands working on it at one time and you don't keep your eyes peeled and somebody sticks a piece of blue glass where there should have been red glass. Once that adhesive dries, it's very difficult to change that. It's not like you can just paint over it or erase it. You have to plan ahead so that when you have the class of 20, you have enough background to work on. Or when you have the kindergartners, you have to have glass already cut because their hands aren't strong enough to be able to cut tiles for themselves. So you just got to juggle everything and make sure that the whole thing progresses evenly, because if you have a 3-panel design and 2 panels get done and the third one isn't done, and you have bigger classes, they won't all be able to fit around one panel. Each project has its own advantages and disadvantages. Like some projects are 5 days long, some projects are months long, and obviously it's easier to get something really fabulous done in months. The shortest project that I ever had was 5 days, and then in that one there was actually a day and a half of snow days, so it got down to 3.5 days, and we managed to pull it off, and it was one of my favorite results. There's been a few projects that we did that there were kids that were already accustomed to working with glass. Like there's 2 different schools that I've worked at that had a glass saw. Obviously we're able to make much more complicated tiles in those schools. I work with all kinds of kids. Some of the projects I have kids that are way older than me. I did one project with mentally ill adults. I did one project at a maximum security prison. I wasn't even allowed to use glass. I've done projects where there's kindergartners and high school seniors in the same project. I've done a lot of projects where I have no idea ahead of time how many people are even going to be involved. I did one project at an art festival. Some projects were in hospitals, some projects were in senior living homes. Each project is unique. We're kind of in a time where everybody's attention span keeps getting shorter and shorter, and a mosaic is just kind of a long process. There's no instant gratification in a mosaic. Like, they could be working full steam ahead and doing their best for an entire period, and it looks like we haven't accomplished anything. It's almost like saving for a house. You put a little bit away every week and it doesn't look like you're making any progress. And then after a year, you see that you've made quite a bit of progress. It's crazy hard to edit these pictures down to something that I can make a video of. Even if I only did a half a minute on each project, that's still 25 minutes. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of pictures, so in here there's a lot of projects where you'll only see one picture. But every single project has dozens of stories that I know and hundreds of stories that I don't know. Like, for instance, somebody in a recent project, her granddaughter just hiked the Appalachian Trail by herself, so she made a tile that specifically commemorated that. Many kids make a tile specifically for an accomplishment their parent did, or something special about their parent. Many adults do things specifically for their kid. Many kids collaborate and make two tiles that are supposed to be together, like front half of an animal and the back half of an animal. If you want to know what it's like to work in a school, just imagine if you have a team of 10 or 20 people working with you. 40 minutes after you get started, everybody's moving and grooving. Then you have to stop and clean up everything, and they all leave, and another group of 10 or 20 people comes in, and you got to get started all over again. Once you figure out which period of the day is your most productive, you should expect to have a fire drill during that period, at least once during the project. When COVID hit, I was asked to come up with a project where I would be able to work with participants remotely. I had to figure out ways to prepare the glass. I made a video for instruction. I was able to still guide them, even though I wouldn't even be coming in contact with them. At first, I thought that was a little disappointing because I like to meet everybody that works on these, of course, but I've actually gotten past that because it's enabled me to do way bigger things, because some of these projects have been at work events or festivals where there's just so many people. I'm not going to physically be able to meet everybody, but we can still take part. And then it is kind of cool, like sometimes I actually meet them years later. I just met somebody last night who said that they were involved in something years ago, and it's still cool and it's still connecting. I do think these projects knit people together. Those projects that were done remotely, I had to assemble myself, which was fine because this is what I love to do. So when I work by myself, I'm able to do things that are more challenging than what I can do when I'm working with 20 pairs of hands at a time, you know, with people that never cut glass before. I don't really do this just for something to do. I think it is very much an important part for the mosaic to come out really cool. Like, I judge a mosaic as successful if I would be proud to hang it in my own home. And so far, like, everything we've made, I think meets that standard. I'm extremely proud of some of the stuff these kids have done. Also, I think, you know, a big part of the project is that I want the people that work on it to be proud of what they've done. You know, if it's, especially if it's hanging in public, I want them to be proud. I really love it when I get to witness people seeing their mosaic hanging up for the first time, because the first thing people do is they start looking for their tiles, and it's kind of a universal thing. And I love it when a group of kids, they're standing back and looking at it, and then all of a sudden everybody at the same time gets their phone out to take pictures. You just never really know how much a kid is enjoying it or not. There's some kids who just really hide their emotions, and there's some kids that you think really are not having a good time, and then, you know, you hear a story that tells you different. I never worry about what they're going to do, that there's going to be too many of one thing. Turtles are a pretty popular subject, and I have turtles in almost every mosaic, but even if every single kid in every single project wanted to make a turtle, they'd still all really look different. One butterfly is going to look different than the next kid's butterfly. Everybody's cat's going to have its own look. In every project, I try to get done a little early so that I have a day to talk to kids about things, you know, about the project and what they're going to do after school. And it's not that obviously I'm not trying to convince every kid to be an artist, but I do think they can find a job that they thoroughly enjoy doing. Like, think about it. Who gets to paint a 3-foot donut all day with a pile of kids? Me.